One of the things that I think is really striking, not just to me, but obviously to the whole world. I mean, when you guys released The Secret of Kells, you made a splash, Academy Award nomination right out the gate, which is really,
Crazy,
really uh,
absolutely crazy. Yeah,
something. But I think I mean, you've heard this before, the style you guys settled on for this particular picture, being inspired by kind of the pages of the Illuminators. It's very, very flat in a lot of places, very,
yeah.
very graphic. And it makes me sort of, one of the questions that I would have, I think, approaching this particular project uh, is in animation, is this going to work? Um,
Yeah,
you know, and was that where you lean more heavily on scene illustrations, or how did you
yeah.
answer the question, is this going to work?
We've done a lot of work. We were so naive starting out that we thought we could make it all on our own. So we'd spent about a year trying to make it, and we ended up with sort of a lot of test scenes and a kind of a promo trailer and stuff that we brought the cartoon movie. And it wasn't quite as stylized then, but it was pretty stylized. And I think right from the start, I was coming at it. My friend Ross Stewart, who was the art director on Secret of Kells, he co-directed Wolfwalkers with me, and I had been school friends, so we were quite. Our manifesto was animation can do anything you can draw, you can animate, and we were really inspired by people like Richard Williams and stuff saying that. So that was very much what we wanted to do. And when Aidan had been involved, he was another very strong voice, illustrative wise, and we had a great team of designers. And we were very much a studio that was talking about and thinking about what could hand drawn animation do in the face of CG, in the face of the fact that hand-drawn animation was kind of evolving into a more CG look, and the CG look at the time meant Pixar kind of hyper realism, and we were thinking, could we go in a different direction? So all of that was part of who we were when DDA and the other partners got involved. So they were kind of trusting us to be able to pull it off, and in fact, DDA was impressing upon us that our only chance to stand out would be to look as different from Disney as possible. We worked with a Hungarian studio that I really admired, the Kecskemét Film Studio, who had done a lot of beautiful work with Hungarian folk art. And so that was kind of what the project was about. Not to say that everyone trusted in it, and a lot of people that worked on it were not sure if it was going to work. And we had to spend a long time doing a lot of pre-production designing and planning. We did scene illustrations, but also like thick books of rules and do's and don'ts, and a lot of animation testing. And yeah, it was a long period. I'd say from the time we set up the studio over 99 2000 to the time we started production in 2005, we had sort of had an opportunity to try a lot of stuff out and also to kind of prove ourselves with the style. And actually, we had a bit too many styles. I remember sitting at Cartoon Movie the year we were starting production, and the head of the Irish Film Board and DDA, and I think our partner in Canal Plus in France, literally sat with our graphic Bible of how we wanted the movie to look, and they started ripping pages out saying, "Look, this is too much. You're going too far, crazy. You're trying too many different things. We need to unify the style." And that's what Ross and I worked on. The last year, 2004, trying to get the finance locked in place was when we made the final graphic Bible. That was a bit more scene illustrations rather than concept, like where we were kind of locking in the style and doing tests and things like that.
That's interesting that you talk about needing to unify the style, because even in the finished version, you have some
Mhm.
different style treatments.
Yeah,
Specifically, the Vikings and things, when they come, there's a little bit of a different style than,
it's
you know.
kind of been it's kind of become our calling card that we do kind of like we always loved the art of books, and we always hated that everything got kind of watered down, and we kind of became known for people that would experiment and innovate, with different styles within a project.
Uh, yeah, I do think that's one of the coolest things about the art of books that come out of Cartoon Saloon, is that they're just full of pages and pages of arts, just
Yeah.
perfect, and less, less copy, which is nice.
We're always like excited to share art. Like even back then I had a blog, I called it the Blog of Kells, and I was just excited to share everything I was doing. I was just enthusiastic. It was the absolute opposite of a big American corporation where everything would be under wraps. I was just like, look what we're doing, and just pre-Instagram, anything else, Blogger was my place that I kind of shared, and I met so many friends and supporters in the industry that way. People before the movie came out, there was people who knew about it because they'd been following my blog, which was absolute opposite of the way that things would have been marketed before, where you didn't breathe a word about it until it all hit, and it had sort of been teased over the years. So yeah, it was great. We had friends in Pixar and DreamWorks and different big studios in the States excited for it.
Yeah, oh, that's interesting. Now, in terms of Kells, some of the influences that I've heard you mention in various places before, um, you guys put a lot of detail into your picture. I mean, you guys talked about flowers that show up in the movie that are native to Ireland, or bugs, beetles that are native to
Yeah. Mhm.
Ireland. Influences you guys looked at the Book of Kells, but
Yeah.
also places of influence that I wouldn't have anticipated, like Animal Farm. You guys talked about in the Abbott's room, uh,
Yeah.
Calvin and Hobbes a little bit. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so, kind of where do you find your sources of inspiration, and how do they all inform your directing?
Yeah, the Animal Farm book by Ralph Steadman we really loved. I think what it was like Paul, who's a partner in the studio as well, studied illustration, and we were all really passionate about comics and illustration. And I think our style ended up becoming this like percolation, where it started like a very wide funnel and kind of percolated down into kind of an espresso of all the stuff we loved. And I think the early concept art, I think the DDA and the Irish Film Board guy were right. We were going all over the map and playing with it, but I think we found a way to make rules around it so that, like Calvin and Hobbes, we love the ink and watercolor style in the kind of main pages in those books, which are a little bit like the carpet pages in the Book of Kells. It was like a big watercolor page, and then you got into the detail. And yeah, all of that stuff, it all just kind of percolated down, and the style kind of, and we were being pushed in a certain direction too by the source material. Like it needed to feel like medieval art and stuff. So we had to discard things that weren't speaking to that kind of aesthetic. So yeah, but yeah, I think the trick with finding a style is to look as diverse as possible and take your inspiration from as wide as possible. And that way you don't get accused of just copying one style, but rather creating something new by remixing everything you love.